Hello, Attactioneers. Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Morrow.
What's up? Baltimore is coming in hot. It's coming up really fast, and I'm pretty excited.
That's Isaac Jessen, the other host of this podcast. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, thank you. We appreciate that you're here hanging out with us. You're psyched for Baltimore. I am psyched for Baltimore as well, to don my flesh and blood jersey, sit on my couch, and throw my penalty flags at the TV while I watch the live stream. It's going to be great.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we do the same intro every time. I figured I could mix up. I'm actually nervous for Baltimore. I've been so busy. Like, it turns out you don't do any of your stuff for 3 months, then you have to do all that stuff again. So unfortunately, I've been too busy to practice as much as I would like to get ready for Baltimore. But I've already bought the plane ticket and Airbnb, so we're going.
Who are you staying
We're
with? Sane?
kick some ass. Yeah, there's a group of them that got a house.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
But are you in the same room sleeping with Zane? Because that's the move. Last time you top 8 nationals, when Zane was sharing your same air. So I hope you're trying to recreate that whole experience.
He's a very good player. I don't know how often I can steal his power before he dies, but
Also, one of the shout out to last podcast, one of your new superpowers from surviving the Pitts plague is you're some sort of vampire / lich, and you have a third arm. So if you don't know what we're talking about, listen to the previous episodes of the podcast.
Right, on to this episode's topic. We're going to be talking about our meta predictions, or how we think the tournament will go, and then talk a little bit about tournament prep leading into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the news. First up, this is not in the order it is in the notes, but I want to throw this one up top.
Curveball.
Yeah, that's me. I wear my pants backwards, and it's crazy. Shout out to Chris Cross. I used to have that on tape. It's just like, what a great hip hop duo. Arcane Games and Events is going to be putting on their second battle hardened LA that is in Pasadena, City of Roses. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be awesome. I will be there. I'm unsure if I will be a part of the casting team. I'm pretty sure, but Justin, if you're listening, please confirm or deny what I'll be doing. But I'll be there, and it's going to be just like a great time. I can't wait. Isaac, are you going?
Highly unlikely. I'll most likely be working, but
that's crazy.
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Well, I could just throw away my career and go, or I could not do that. But
well, if you win Pro Tour Baltimore, that's setting you up for the run of a lifetime. So might as well hold off being a firefighter while you can be a professional card player.
We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Totally. But I'm going to be there. I can't wait. I personally want to spend a bit more time in the Southern California area than we did last time, so I can perhaps sample some of the niceties that Pasadena has to offer. I've just realized also, this is just, I know this is total tangent, but Colin lives right next to one of my favorite menswear boutiques. Shout out to Snake Oil Provisions. And so I'm going to do some shopping.
Nice.
Okay, anyway, I have been home
I
alone
don't know.
all day and haven't, you're the first person I've talked to. So,
Oh, nice. Besides Hilda.
yeah, who is my dog?
Nice.
More news. Moving
Yeah,
right
what else do you
along.
got?
Skirmish season has wrapped up, and before this final weekend, it was like Icelander had to win like 6 skirmishes, and Oldhim had to win like 3, and then they living legend out of the format, which is just great. I think without those 2 decks and no new set on the horizon, the format will really open up, and that'll be great. Very excited about that. And Kano can run free.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love to play me some Kano. Yeah, that'll be good. It's just like Icelander is kind of fundamentally broken in Blitz, right? That play pattern of the consistency of back-to-back turns along with disruption is just like a lot of the game is designed for constructed and limited, right? Like not designed for Blitz. And so sometimes things happen like this where I don't know, you ban a bunch of cards from a hero and they're just fundamentally really good, and it'll just be better when she's out of Blitz.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Well, and she's just one of those heroes that plays the first half of a classic constructed game to get you to that second half where you're like sub 20 life, and you just start there. So you're like
Yeah, if she's
already,
18, you're great.
yeah, you're already where she wants to be in terms of like enacting a very strong game plan and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, it's very Kano-esque.
yeah, totally. Wizards, good in Blitz. Final piece of news, and this will be a bit more, I think, of a discussion, perhaps. LSS. So, if you've been living under a rock and haven't been paying attention, there are 2 separate prints of Outsiders. So you get one from Belgium and one from Japan, and the pack collation is quite a bit different in both of those. And so pro players have been kind of asking, what packs are we going to be using for Pro Tour Baltimore? Because I need to read signals, and if I can understand what the correlation is in this pack, then I can more easily send signals and read signals and that sort of thing. And so finally, LSS put out an article about it.
Yeah.
And they basically said that they have a solution and they believe it's the best solution, and that's it. That's all they're going to tell you. And you need to get good at draft to be doing well at the Pro Tour. So
they
Isaac
said, quit your whining.
Yes,
That's all you're going to get.
What are your
snarky?
Yeah, what are your thoughts about this whole situation?
Yeah, I thought the article was a little snarky, but maybe we were a little bit entitled. Excuse me, being like, oh, we deserve exact pack collation,
Right. I mean, they do put it on their like product sheet, or
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I just meant from like a broader view a little bit, I guess. Like,
right.
Not all games give you exact pack collation, and it's not a part of all draft formats. So while we thought it was a staple piece of information in Flesh and Blood, apparently they were fine with it not being, And for me, I definitely understand the frustration with getting those numbers and practicing for a specific collation and then finding out that actually you don't get to know that information. So maybe your like efforts or like time or energy or whatever was like a bit wasted. For me personally, I don't care. I have not had the time to like practice drafting this set. And I actually very much enjoy kind of like a bit more fluidity in draft. Like I like to draft my seat. I like I guess I like a fluid in the moment draft experience. And I'm not like trying to discount anybody's concern about, like obviously if you're a pro player, you want to prep the best you can with all the information you can have. I totally understand. For me, I'm playing a game that I love, and I do like uh doing it by feel a bit. So personally, it doesn't bother me at all. What's your take on this?
Well, there's like a couple of things. One, Brian Gottlieb got on Twitter and had kind of a certain comment. I'm not going to go find it. Everybody can go find it if they want. But it was along the lines of thinking about the average Joe who is qualified for the Pro Tour, and that if you had a team of people working out the pack coalition and the numbers and that sort of thing, that they would have an advantage over average Joe, and that they did not want to have that type of scenario happen to somebody in perhaps their first draft at a professional level, which I kind of don't agree with that. Like, if you've qualified for the Pro Tour, you are now, like, this is the highest level of flesh and blood we get to, right? So if the other team, it's like, so let's use an analogy. So if the other team you're playing against in a basketball game is practicing their specific plays for when the ball is out of bounds at the hoop they want to score at, under the hoop or on the sideline, and they have specific plays to score out of those, and you decide like, nah, we're like also not going to do that, then you're just like not giving yourself like the best advantage, or you're like not practicing before your playoff game. You know what I mean? Like, you're involved in this thing, and you're not like doing all of the stuff like a professional would do. That's like not the game we're playing. Does that make sense? So it's like, if you're not going to do it, that's fine. But the game would be to practice at the highest level that you're currently at. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
am I making sense?
Yeah, I still think that you can test the top players' draft ability without a known exact pack correlation.
Totally.
Right?
That's the other thing I'm going to say as well, is that whatever the game is, if I'm a professional player at that level, I'm just going to play whatever game they tell me to play, because I'm there to like compete and test myself against the highest level. So if they're saying like, hey, brand new pack collation, you don't know what's going on, you're not going to know what's going on. Awesome. Totally fine. You know what I mean? But just the combination of that article and a little bit of the Twitter discourse, I was like, I don't know if we're handling this the right way. You know what I mean? Pro Tours are not for everybody. You have to be the singular person to win a Pro Quest to get there. You know what I mean? So it's not like we're trying to be inclusive in that type of way. It's a very competitive scenario. So those are my thoughts about it, I suppose. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no need to spend energy to make the like Pro Tour like beginner friendly.
Right.
Like they have laxer rules. They already have lax rules at like Pro Quests and Road to Nats and things that like kind of irk me, actually, because I've been in situations where you're like, okay, we play take backsies now or whatever, but you don't need to like have that kind of like sympathy at the Pro Tour, right? Like, everybody's there to play, and some people are there to shark, and it's just like, there's no room for that. I don't really agree with I didn't see that tweet, but the sentiment of that tweet, because it's like, so I don't have a testing team going to the Pro Tour. We haven't had a testing team leading up till now. So anybody with a large team on day one is going to scout all the packs, right?
Yeah.
Or like record their packs or memorize them or whatever, and are going to know if there's like, if it's all Belgian boxes day one, maybe it's all Japanese day two, who knows, right? But anybody with a big enough team is going to like instantly have all that data, and somebody like me is not going to. So it's not like, I guess it maybe kind of levels the playing field, like, you know, the first draft day one, but you know, I don't know. It just seems like kind of a stretch, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He's presenting an argument for something that's not like the issue.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally. The like leveling the playing field is just not how competition works. You know, or else they would all be IRA starter deck mirrors, you know? Or like everybody on the basketball team has to be the same height, you know? Competition is just not equal. It's not fair already. So like let's just get over that right now.
Yeah.
Like I might be taller than Michael Hamilton, but his brain is better than mine for this specific thing we're doing. You know what I mean? So that's not fair. So I just got to deal with it. And I got to practice 12,000 hours more than him.
Yeah, it's not fair that, like, you know, Michael Hamilton gets his brain, you know, and Yuki gets her brain. You know, I just have to use my brain. It's not fair at all.
Totally. Your brain sucks. Just kidding. You have a great brain. You have actually a very large head. So
Thanks.
Huge brain.
Thank you, I think. I'll just say thank you.
That's it. I hope you fucking crush it at draft.
Thanks,
That's it for the news. Shout outs.
Got some shout outs. All right, I'll go first here. I just wanted to shout out, because I don't think I have yet, Savage Land News on YouTube. They make great content and put in the effort to make quality productions. And you can tell they're like, have pride in what they do. You know what I mean? It's not like high volume to get views or clickbaity or like formulate. You know, it's like they're making good shit. So great job.
Hell yeah.
Keep it up. That's all I got.
Shout out for me is to Hamish from the Push the Point podcast. He was nice enough to do a interview with me that's up on their YouTube page, and I had a ton of fun. So before we're recording, here's a little peek behind the curtain. It's Easter, and he's like, hey mate, I don't have a beer or anything. I've just been drinking all day. I was like, oh, well, I definitely have one because I knew I was coming on your show. And he's like, okay, fuck it, hold on. And just like throws his headphones off, rummages around, and comes back with like a couple of beers. And then, you know, we're off to the races. It was great. It was just like there wasn't any thought like, well, okay, you convinced me. It was just like, oh, sweet. Okay, here we go.
Totally. Also, you can't be drinking all day and then make something like that, because then you're crashing, right? You'd have to have another beer to keep yourself on the up.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Nice. On that note, we'll wrap up shout outs, but we do have a audio listener question that was beamed or physically mailed on a cassette tape to us. One of those. Why don't you take it away?
Hey, Darth Prentice here, because I got bullied into pausing your podcast to ask you a question. This is for Battle Bro Taylor. I would love to know if you've been running Pummel in your Uzuri list. If not, I would recommend it. It's oodles of fun. But additionally, I would just love to know what card you're having the most fun playing Peekaboo in on the combat chain against your opponent.
Okay. Thank you, Darth Prentice, for that wonderful question. If you want to send us a question, do so right now on your phone. Get the voice memo app open that every phone has, record it, email the attackactionpodcast@gmail.com, and you'll get to be famous like Darth Prentice. So, do I run Pummel in Uzuri? No. Pummel is a trap. I tried it. And even though it's like pretty sweet, it lets you play like a 4-card hand. It's like most of the time, why do I have all of these cards? It's really hard to, or like what happened last turn to where I have all of these cards. You know, like I just took 15 damage. And now I'm, I guess, also going to do that back. Maybe I took 25 damage because it's like 3 of a kind Lexi. Anyway, I find it really hard to run pummels. It's like pummel visceri, not a thing, you know? If your weapon can't be pummeled, it's just really awkward to have pummel in your deck, in my opinion. So I haven't been doing that. And I tried it.
Uzuri has less targets too.
Yeah, exactly.
Than like Guardian or whatever. Plus Guardian like pitches 4 for Endless Winter and it has 2 floating.
Yeah.
Like their cost curve is built around pummel with tectonic plating in there, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just weighing in. I don't know.
Totally. Could do a cheeky one of, so I could at some point like pitch a blue of the like 15 I run, so might not have one, and then have one floating, tunic resource up, boom, CNC pummel, shakedown pummel, etc. Which we might get back there to like 1 pummel, but I haven't been doing that. So sorry. I'm glad you're having fun though with your pummel Uzuri deck. Thank you so much for the question. We really appreciate it.
What's the name of that card that was short printed?
Surgical Extraction.
Yeah. That card should be an Arachne specialization. That card is fucked up in Uzuri.
It's not. It depends on the matchup.
Okay.
Fair
it just gets, for that card, you get 2 cards.
Yeah.
Including 1 out of their hand.
Yeah.
Which is so powerful. Anyway.
It's freaking sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty.
The other day I was playing against Dash and I was just basically looping black text, which was sick because I'm trying out this like hybrid contract stealth list, and I did leave no witness, he blocked, shred, black text, got some reds, then stealth, blam, shakedown, got another red from hand, and got 3 silver. It was awesome. Anyway.
My least favorite's when they play Eradicate and do something tricky, because then I'm like, I'm winning, but I just went from 23 to 13 cards in deck, right? So I'm still winning, but we got to win really fast now, like.
It's a big Eradicate. Yeah. Pretty nuts. Last thing before we get into the main topic of the pod is join our Patreon. So now we are consistently putting out basically 4 different pieces of content every month. So if you subscribe at Patreon for $4, bottom tier, that's $1 per episode. So you get 2 episodes of the podcast, you get the reaction step, and if you're a patron, you get our patron exclusive time snap podcast where we pop a time snap and talk about whatever we want that's not flesh and blood related, because we got so many action points now, and it's been great. We've been loving doing it. People have loved it. So that's $1 per basically minimum hour podcasts a month. I think Michael Hamilton,
that's pretty good.
Michael Hamilton would say that's good value.
Yeah, that is good value. Thanks, Michael. Thanks. It is. You're right.
I need to get a sound bite of that and clip it in right there. Also, you got to check out
I don't know if that's legal.
I totally can. It's a free podcast.
Sorry, what were you saying? Go ahead.
Friend of the show. Streaming. I'm streaming on the weekends, although I didn't do it this weekend because it's too much going on. But Saturday mornings, I've been streaming. Last one was a pretty fun Arachne solitary confinement blitz session. And there were some pretty wild games out there. A lot of bingies, a lot of weird bingy decks. It was really fun. Which segue into our We Build, You Build segment that I'm doing with Colin. So for this last month of May, we built Arachne Solitary Confinement, aka ASC, and we put it out there to the community, and anybody else who wanted to join us also built ASC and played with it during the month however they wanted. And we're going to have a special episode next week, last week, before April is over, kind of about our experience and your experience, the listener. So make sure you tune in to that. And we'll probably do another one of those. Unsure when, but it was a good exercise and we had a lot of fun. So with that, let's get into the main topic. Isaac, go.
So our main topic this episode is, like I said, our predictions for Baltimore, and then some thoughts on prepping for Baltimore. So first off, let's get into oh, that was loud. Don't hit your watch on your mic. They're both metal. Let's look at how we see the meta as it stands, and then kind of give our thoughts on like some of the interactions or matchups, or how we would look at targeting that meta or just performing well in it, right? So Taylor, why don't you tell me what decks you're looking at as top performers?
Well, there's
and watch out for your mic.
There's it seems like the meta is pivoting off of the Rangers. So they're currently basically doing the most powerful stuff in Flesh and Blood. So you have to have something that plays well into those. And so now we've kind of got this like this Oldhim haze over the meta that's like, you know, tamping down the Rangers. So that's kind of like the baseline of kind of where the meta's at. And we don't have too much like public data. You know, today's the 23rd when we're recording, and I'm pretty sure we finally got like all of the rounds of Baltimore out on stream on YouTube to watch and see if there was any innovations and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we have going on. So you have the Rangers, and then you have people bringing Oldhim to beat the Rangers, or then you have the second level of that, which is this other deck beats Rangers and it plays okay into Oldhim, or this deck just beats Oldhim, right? So that's kind of the sphere we're going to be operating in for Baltimore. Now, where in that diagram you want to land is kind of like a personal preference at this point. This is my hot take, is that we're just going to get a specialist is going to win the Pro Tour. That's it.
Yep. I could definitely see it too, because the paths to the finals on the Pro Tour are like vastly different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a strong player on their deck and the right path, you know, is certainly like, I guess, the easiest path there. Not that it would be easy, right? But yeah, and I agree. Like, that's what I look at first, right? Like, okay, you have to be able to beat Oldhim. I like firmly believe it's the best deck, right? Like, it's not the best deck into every matchup, but it's just its matchup spread is superior to probably every other hero's, right? Like even the decks that can beat it, it's like you don't love that matchup, right? Like Icelander can beat it, Dromai can beat it, Briar can beat it for sure. Kano can beat it. The Kano matchup's pretty good actually. Even Lexi can beat it, but it's just like you never feel super confident because Oldhim can be built in a variety of ways, and even the aggressive version still blocks extremely well and can always trade for good value, right? So that's what I'm looking at first, right? You like have to be able to play into Oldhim, or like hope you get really lucky. I don't know. And then I'm looking at Rangers, Dromai, and Briar mostly is kind of the top of my list. Obviously, it's difficult to beat all of those decks, and like especially Briar can be built very differently. You can kind of have the 3-for-7s and everything blocks for 4 Briar, which is kind of annoying actually. Or the like hyper aggressive go wide channel mount heroic Briar, which you know hasn't had as much talk maybe, probably because of Oldhim, but I think that deck is still quite good, right? And then so under that, like I have like you have Dash, Uzuri, Kano, Icelander, Katsu, Dory, Bravo, right? Like I think that all of those decks could do really, really well, but I just don't think they're the strongest picks. And like banking on playing that particular matchup is pretty low odds, I think, when you're going. But they're all considerations, right? Like Dory has a really good, at least Lexi matchup. I don't know about Azalea, but I think odds are it has a good Azalea matchup as well. So, definitely not. None of those decks are like poor picks. I would lump Viserai in there, but I just have Viserai pretty low because Briar is the superior rune blade at the moment.
Totally.
I'll give you a second to like scream at me.
No,
Okay,
I went down that thought, that theoretical area. I was like, so wait a second. So if Azalea and Lexi are around, let's just say there's more Azalea. So then we got some Dromais floating around who are like trying to beat Azalea. And then we got Oldhim. Is Viserai actually the sleeper secret pick? That's exciting. And then I was like, I guess if you're thinking about a Rune Blade, you might as well just play Briar because it's just better.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh man, my hopes are freaking crushed. So there you go. But yeah. I think in that vein, we still could see like a sneaky Viserai build kind of do pretty well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that deck still has like above curve value, right? When you're like, doing some of its like 3-card combos or whatever big turns, like still very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. And it can handle kind of dragons and other stuff that you're doing to it. So
yeah. This is kind of, I really enjoy a more open meta like this. I know some people like a pretty closed meta, or I don't even know if that's what you call it, but like a 2 or 3 deck or 1 deck meta, because it's really easy to like train for and tech for and get like really into the minutia of the matchup or the mirror, but right. I kind of like a broader meta. It makes it a little more exciting. Because like in addition to the decks I just mentioned, right, you I don't think have a good chance of seeing, but you should probably at least theorize about a game plan for like running into like a Katsu or a Phi, right? Or pretty aggressive deck, or just like the most aggressive Briar deck. In addition to that, you also have to have some idea of a game plan for Fatigue Oldhim or Fatigue Dash. I don't personally think those decks are very good because you have like no agency, and like if Briar just puts in the like rights, etc., like tech, or like Kano can beat it, Lexi can beat it, Dromai can beat it. You know, like if somebody's prepared for it, you have like no agents like, oh, my opponent called my bluff, or you know, like knows what I'm doing, so now I have to pivot to this game plan or whatever. You know, you're just like screwed because your cards are bad, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little biased because I don't prefer that play style, but I just don't think that's a great pick. But I do think people will bring it, right?
Yeah.
So in addition to like everything else you have to think about, there's also like running into Katsu or running into like deep fatigue, trying to catch people out, which is a lot to plan for. So I think when you're picking your hero and looking at the spread, it's like you're not going to be happy with your pick, which I think is what gets a lot of people down, right? Is that you're still like, well, I have these two like not good matchups and they're good decks people could bring. But you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Makes it interesting.
I
Still a game we play for fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very interesting meta that's about to happen. And I also kind of prefer this because like for two reasons. One, the dream that because it's so open, you could do it and top 8, you know? And two, the exact same reason for us on the couch at home. It makes for more exciting storylines. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to see like, even though, you know, you could argue that it was like kind of fun, but like we just don't want to see another like Starvo versus Chain, Prism versus Starvo, Chain versus Prism. You know what I mean? Like on the stream at home, we don't want to see just those repeatedly. You know what I mean? We want to see if somebody's like all of a sudden Reinar's 4-0, you know, final round of Swiss before we go to draft or whatever. Like that's much more exciting from a spectator standpoint. But then
Really?
Go ahead.
Well, just on that note, like it like opens up a little breathing room. So it's like also just exciting to see like, you know, like, oh, snap, this is an ice Lexi or like a red line Uzuri.
Yeah.
Or like a hyper aggro old him. They're not like fatiguing anything. They're just pummeling you into the ground, you know, like even that kind of thing. Cause like the aforementioned matchups that you talked about that we all saw plenty of times, like were semi solved and there was no room for innovation because the meta wasn't changing or broad at all, right? Like you had to beat Starvo, so you couldn't like get kind of creative or weird with it. And I think that in this meta, there you could, right? Because it's like everybody thinks Lexi's fuseless, and then you're like buried under frostbites. Suddenly, it costs you 2 cards to block with your defense reaction or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think even that is like pretty exciting. That even if seeing one of the better heroes, you see like 3 for 7 Briar, sick, you know, great value.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, I think Lexi is in maybe the best spot out of all of the top heroes. Just if we're saying the most represented heroes are going to be Oldhim, both two out of the 3 Rangers, Dromai and Briar, you know, I think Lexi has the best chance to go the distance out of the top decks. That's my final pick.
Nice.
That's what I'm going for.
You got any dark horses you're looking out for?
Well, my dark horse is my girl Uzuri for sure. Nice. There's a lot to be explored, I think, in that deck. And you know, maybe somebody has been in the dungeon, you know, training and is coming out with some extra little bits of spice on how to play that deck and attack the meta. I know I certainly have been trying to theorize on how to make the Oldhim matchup like a little bit better, and that sort of thing. And then, okay, so I'll just tell you what my new theory is, because
Nice.
There's like one other Azuri player listening on the podcast who's like, what are you doing? So my idea is to blend the contracts and the stealth cards for to help you in the Oldhim matchup. Just because, like, even if you just use Plunder the Poor, if you cast that 3 times and just deal 12 damage off of that and get 3 cards, that's like really good value, even if you don't make any silver, because one of the things Oldhim is leveraging against you is the sledge and trying to deck you a little bit. And so you can kind of like keep up a bit of card tempo that way if you have a healthy amount of contracts, but then you don't want to lose out on Azuri's ability, which is really good. And then like just playing into bigger turns where you can make sure you have like a shred when you like Spider's Bite into Azuri activation, and make sure you like shred them so you get like a little bit of damage through, and whatever disruption you're going to have, because all of Azuri's like the best cards you're running, like outside of CNC, so like Death Touch, Shakedown, and if you're running Surgical Extraction, like those 9 cards do like a lot of broad work against basically all of the heroes. So if you can get those off, you can gain quite a bit more tempo and ability to like close out the game. So those are my thoughts and what has been having some success in testing.
Nice. It's like you're speaking a foreign language.
Not to the initiated, though.
I know. I have not played a single Azuri game, although I very much like the hero.
She's so cool.
Right. Nice. There's just a lot nowadays,
There totally is. So before we move on to draft, and like, because I think we have a lot to say about draft as well. Have you picked your deck for Baltimore? Do you want to unveil that on the podcast?
I have not. I haven't, but I'll talk about my decision process a little bit when we move on to my constructed prep.
We're moving on to that right now. That was the segue.
Oh, you want to talk about that before draft? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, in the outline here, actually, it's all right. There we go. Fixed it. A little physical humor for the listeners at home.
Yeah, a visual humor is always the best in audio formats for sure. But it's like, name one podcast that doesn't do that?
Totally.
I'll be waiting right here. You couldn't come up with one exactly. So get off our backs.
Yeah.
Or hop on.
Nice.
I'm strong. I can carry you. I got you right now. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so in Classic Constructed, as you know, I only play a few heroes, so my pool is limited. Thought about Kano, Azalea, Lexi, or Dromai. And I've kind of ruled Kano out because at first he looks good because Kano loves mid-range, right? Like a mid-range meta where the Rangers are keeping down the aggro decks is like the dream. I also like the Kano Oldhim matchup. Oldhim just does not threaten you enough and only draws 4 cards every 2 turns. But Kano's out for me because Lexi is a bit tough with the amount of damage and disruption she threatens, including now inertia, and Heart of Ice thrown in there also. It's like, you can work around that, but it just makes it harder. So Lexi's not great. The amount of like weird fatigue decks and a spite running around in those decks is like also kind of tough. not because of the fatigue decks necessarily, but just because of the presence of that card. Yeah, that's the reason it's out for me. Like, it's just like if it was just Azalea, maybe I'd like be testing more into it, but it's not. It's too much. Dromai is really tough as well. So, especially if like big dragon Dromai is like more, stronger now. Everybody's off the like totally red list. So
Yeah, just get total tide turn 1.
Yeah, or
No, there goes your boots. Oh,
that's why I'm off the.
There goes your tunic.
Well, yeah, I mean that's only one card in the deck, but then it's like Oasis and Sand Cover.
Yeah,
it's like pretty tough. And then I would really love to take Azalea. I firmly believe Azalea is like the best deck right now at doing her game plan, right? Mm-hmm. It's like pretty linear. You get 1 or 2 tall attacks and with hit effects, but now she does 15 damage or like 11 dominate with a debilitating on hit, and it's like very, very powerful. It is a deck to beat though, and I have not had the like time to play Azalea into like Oldhim teched for Azalea, or like every deck right now teched for Azalea. So as much as I love that hero and love playing that deck, just going in kind of blind and trying to like be, like I said, especially Oldhim who's tech to beat you, does not sound very fun. The matchup may be fine, but again, I'd be going in kind of blind, so it's just like it's out. So the 2 decks I'm choosing between are Lexi and Dromai. I've played a few games of Lexi so far. Like, my list isn't dialed or anything, but it just does really powerful things, right? Like, it has a really strong spread into a lot of different heroes. And now with like premeditates and heat seekers and codex, your like card velocity is a lot more. Whereas you used to have a huge kind of broken turn, but then you would have to take a turn off to like set up another 6 card hand, right? Because you still have to like draw those cards and set them up. So then it's like, yay, big turn, but then another turn is like not, it's like underwhelming. But now you have like this card velocity that's really, really powerful and can kind of allow you to keep the pressure up with a bit of luck. So that all feels great, right? Lexi can also beat Oldhim. It can beat Dromai as well, even though that's a tough matchup. But I think kind of what turns me off Lexi a little bit is I think the Azalea matchup is pretty tough. And, Azalea might be a good call if you expect a bunch of Lexis, to be honest, right? Like, Lexi's a bit more flexible. It's like a bit better into Oldhim or, kind of like fatigue, that kind of deck. But Dromai is tough. Azalea is tough. Oldhim isn't easy either. So when you start looking at the kind of the matchups into some of these top decks, I mean, maybe don't say you're unfavored, but it's like, it's tight, right? It's not like you're feeling strong going into it. And so then looking at Dromai, kind of the same thing. I really like the Dromai matchup spread. And it's even like, it's really good into some heroes like I like the Dory matchup, right? Whereas Lexi, I don't like the Dory matchup, and I don't expect there to be a lot of Dories. But just for example, some of those random matchups, it's nice if as Dromai you feel comfortable into top decks, and then like a lot of the other decks also is just like a secure feeling. Dromai struggles if you run into Fi or Katsu, which Katsu is, I don't think, a great pick, but potentially good enough it could be there. And Lexi for me is a bit of a question mark now. Like, I think Dromai is favored, but now if Lexi isn't like a kind of an auto win or like a really in your favor matchup, it makes it a bit more of a question mark, right? Because like playing into Oldhim is tough. Like you can definitely beat Oldhim, but it's not easy. So then if playing into Lexi is also not easy, you're starting to be not favored also, just in your matchup spread. And then finally, looking at Breyer, who I think is, I mean, I don't know how Breyer is a sleeper, but is somehow like the sleeper deck or the top decks. I know some people disagree with me and it's like, oh, Breyer's fine. It's like draw my favorite. It's so easy. It's like, yeah, fine, whatever. But I don't think Breyer is that easy of a matchup. You can certainly win. You can certainly get blown out.
Right.
And so now that we're looking at the top matchups, Dromai and Lexi both have pros and cons for me. Their matchups are a bit different, but they both are strong decks that are not like, it's not like I'm spiking the meta, right? Or
Right.
it's not like I'm like feeling really good. I'm like bringing the counter and hope I don't run into Prism or Phi or whatever. It's like the matchups are going to be tough, right? And I love both these heroes and I love their play patterns. I have more reps on Dromai lately, although I kind of picked it up again and I was like pretty rusty, pretty rough. Like I was like, man. But anyway, I guess there's my long rant about my thought process looking at it. And that's why I've not decided yet, right? I felt like I've kind of sussed it out and maybe I'll squeak in another game or two early this week before I fly out. But yeah, it's really feels like really tight margins and like you're kind of gambling a bit, right? Like,
well, yeah, of course you are.
am I bringing Lexi, hoping I face more Briars and like the old hymns are, I guess more benign and I can like set up huge combos, or do I bring Dromai and just like I'm still favored into Ranger, right? And I like my old him matchup. It's like not easy questions. So
yeah, definitely not. And that's a great breakdown. I mean, so I think if we watched Richmond Battle Hardened, I like skipped matchups I didn't care about, but we do see some Rangers beat the old hymns. And Brody Spurlock does lose to an old hymn in the top 4, but he kind of gets azalea'd a little bit, or like Ranger inconsistency, right? A little bit. He's like suffers from in that matchup of like, blocked with too many arrows, too many pumps left in the deck, to be able to get the extra dominated arrow. And so we got to pass like the turn and that sort of thing, so it like is possible. And I can definitely see the reason to like not bring a Ranger because of those sort of things. You can get like a little bit of bad luck. But I suppose also the inverse is true as well, is you could just be hot fire and then just, win the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I've kind of always seen it. That's like I'd call it like the Briar phenomenon or whatever advantage, right? Is like you kind of just auto win like 1 in 5 games.
Yeah.
Or
nice?
whatever, which is like, yeah, like a pretty good perk, right? And I feel like Lexi definitely has that.
Yeah, for sure.
I was gonna say that Lexi, to me, it's like a bit of a turnoff to me because Lexi feels a bit high rolly now, right? Like the deck's fairly consistent, but just as far as doing well enough to win, right? Like, because I played old him matchups where I just run him over, or but then I'll play another matchup where you kind of struggle because you kind of draw your cards like a bit clunky, but they're too spread out to like pitch stack like a fire hand. And you do okay, but you're like running out of cards and they're still at 16, like, and you're just like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of small decision points of like what to pitch, what to play, what to arsenal, what to 6th card arsenal, and like when to release them and when to gamble and, like the stuff for sure. But some games I've played where I'm just like, I just feel like my hot combos just didn't, they're a bit too diluted, or they didn't line up quite good enough. And I guess you trade that for having like hot games as well. But
Yeah.
Dromai is kind of the polar opposite, right? Where your cards block really well. You're not doing anything like exceptionally powerful or broken, but
Except
you
for
have a game
playing
of
dragons.
yeah, well, pitching a red is underrate, so you do pay for it. You do attack them with blue sweeping blow turns before to set this up. So, um, but you're like your deck blocks well, and you can pitch stack, and you have a huge threat density, right? So you can really play patiently and choose your exchanges. So not long as you're not getting like super high rolled, right? So that it's kind of a bit, they're kind of like a dichotomy in that way, right? It's like the powerful high rolly deck a bit, or the the more like Oldhim or Icelander type deck, right? Where you're just like forcing the game into exchange decisions and playing the long con there. So that's like, I guess, kind of the macro decision for me, just in terms of what I enjoy or what types of games I want to play throughout the tournament, which is definitely a consideration. But
Totally. I'm excited to talk to you more about this, or, help you with this decision. I know you're going to make the right one for you, and hopefully you're happy with that decision. Are you running Codex of Inertia and Frailty in Lexi? Are you on that level of spice?
no, I'm currently not on Inertia.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've only played like 5 to 10 games with Lexi recently. So like my deck and my my ideas are just like in their infancy. But
Okay.
that's what I have to work with. So
Okay. Well, you need to talk to Zane and get up to speed. Okay. That's your homework.
okay. Zane, pick up the phone.
Go ahead. I was going to move into draft, unless you want to do something else.
Well, I was just gonna say that like so I'm not running Art of War in Lexi either. There's always just this decision point of like, if you pack in too many of these like powerful, like above rate combo supporting cards, your deck just gets like better and better, right? Until I feel like you kind of hit it like a critical mass, right? Like if you ran 9 books and Art of War and Rain Razors and 3 of a Kind, then you also just kind of have like maybe too many off turns, right? Because even like 2 books in a turn, then your value goes like way down, because you can only arsenal off 1 Ponder, and even if you fetch a Bolton shot with 1, it's just like it doesn't even have go again. So yeah. I guess that's my main argument for not running Inertia, is just like I'm running Premeditate, right? And Rain Razors and 3 of a Kind and Codex of Frailty, right? So that's like 12 cards that are not arrows and block for 2 or less and don't really do shit, like
yeah, totally
on their own without like setup or the support of your powerful arrows, etc. So that's just like the balance I'm looking at, right? Speaking of there's a lot to look at leading up to the Pro Tour, for me at least, right? Like, because when I look at these decks, I like I'm trying to figure out how to like.
I'm just wondering if you're just going to go in a circle now, and we're just going to talk about the same thing, but for a second time.
I was trying to think of how to formulate this, but
use a bad sports analogy like I do.
Well, it got me around to like, so like if I'm looking at Lexi, right? then I have to look at, okay, Lexi has different strategies into all, right? So do I have an ice package? Do I have a aggro package, right? Do I swap them in
Right.
and out? If I do that, then I have no extra sideboard room for anything like, arcane barrier or whatever, right? Or like, um, I was looking at my Oldham deck and I noticed that teching to beat these, X, Y, and Z top tier decks, I noticed that like I had finagled it too much or tweaked it too much. So now my like aggro package had like four,
Defense reactions in it.
no, like garbage cards, like four or five, like red block 3 cards or, whatever. Like they function in the deck, but your threat density goes down when you have to side in like your, I don't know, Dust from the Shadow Crypt or whatever, just to like make 60 in the aggro package. And it's fine, right? It's like a red blocks 3, it pitches, it's whatever. But you notice that the deck is like less good when that isn't like 3 E-strikes or scars or whatever. So I guess all of this like tweaking, right? Like throwing in Codex of Inertia, kind of upsets the balance of everything a bit. And you have to like extensively test with it and make sure that, as you put in these different sideboard packages and enact these different game plans, your balance is still maintained. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So that's like
Totally
the
makes
next
sense.
step of what I'm trying to like brainstorm with so little time.
Totally.
And it's why I kind of hesitated with that book question. It's like, well, yeah, obviously it's really good, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, talk to Zane, and you can watch it on his like game on the AGE Open, the newest one, like round 2 or 3
Against Breyer.
Yeah, if you haven't watched
Yeah, I
that
saw
game.
that game.
Okay, sweet. So you're up to speed. The other thing that's like interesting is this is your first Pro Tour, other than Nationals. But like you can expect maybe the meta to also be a bit more narrow, even though it's like a wide open meta, so it's like how many reps on versus Phi or Viscerai do you really need? You know what I mean? Or like consideration of like cards so you don't lose that matchup. You know what I mean? So
yeah, 100%. That's why like bringing Dromai, I'm not worried about facing a Katsu, right? Katsu might show up for fun. It might be good enough. Who knows? But it's like, that is not my concern, right?
Okay,
my concern
cool.
is like beating Lexi or whatever.
Cool. It just seemed like it was because it's in your notes. So
it's just a bonus, right? It's like part of what you weigh when bringing the deck is it's spread against the other decks. But
yeah, but if you're not going to see that deck, like, or if your chances are like, sub 10%, then I don't think that's really a consideration. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a negative. Errant Katsu, the Errant Katsu is rough, right? Breyer's tough. Lexi question mark.
All right.
But yeah, if I play Katsu round 1, you're just like, well, this wasn't the tournament for me. What are you supposed to do? Like,
yeah, exactly. Do you want to move into draft now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sweet.
We just played draft.
We did. We had a great time. I 3-0'd the pod. I'm the GOD now. I'm back. I'm back, baby. I was having a very rough time with outsiders. I could not get my finger on the pulse or kind of figure out what was good and that sort of thing or what wasn't. You know what I mean? And now I feel a little bit better. Is basically my strategy for yesterday was going into it, don't fuck around with the bullshit. Was basically my plan. And I actually had to pivot in the middle, not in the middle, early pack 2 into kind of a hero that I had hedged to be in, and it got a little dicey, but then it was like just good enough for me to 3-0 the pod. So, what's my consensus on that? One of the things I think I have come to realize is I'm much, much lower on Seeker's equipment and that combo with Peace of Mind than I was previously. And I feel like that's kind of correct now. What are your thoughts about draft? I know this is like unsuccinct and maybe we should have started at a larger level, but I don't know.
No, let's start at Peace of Mind and work our way backwards. No, I agree with you. Like, so if I'm past a red Peace of Mind and I'm an assassin, I'll grab it. Or I mean, and there's like nothing else good in the pack, right? You're like deep into the pack. I'll grab it, and then I'll probably grab a Seekers to pair with it. Sure. Or sometimes Seekers is pretty good because you can block Spiders, Bites, or Kodachis turn 0 without costing you cards out of your deck. I'm actually a pretty big fan of that. But that's like not at the expense of great cards in your deck or like better equipment pieces. So like oftentimes I'll end up like with the toxic tips and the head that blocks for 1 also, right? And then like towards the end of packs, I'll fill in like Seeker's Legs and Seeker's Chest. Great. Protects me from Kodachis, don't lose cards out of deck, or pairs with a Peace of Mind if I'm in like Uzuri or, like.
But the game is kind of like Outsiders. I mean, and this is maybe just the fundamentals of Flesh and Blood, but is really about is like managing your opponent's offense with damage. You know what I mean? So if you're going to spend a card to Seekers and another one to whatever it's called, Peace of Mind, then you just like don't have that many cards left in hand to threaten me, which I know is like a basic part of the game, but it seems like Outsiders incentivizes you to do that, but that is maybe also like a trap, Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, it does. So I would hopefully arsenal the Peace of Mind and play it when it's opportune, right? But still, you can save 2 cards in like, Kodachi Humble or something, and this is still all only a 4-card hand. I do think that the stock in the Peace of Mind goes up when you're facing Ranger.
Yeah.
So maybe it's only a sideboard card and comes out against these other heroes. But maybe if you're playing Uzuri, you arsenal it also. I don't know. I'm just saying I wasn't trying to speak highly about it. I was just saying if the red one's passed and there's nothing else going on and I'm an assassin, right? I will grab it as a sideboard card.
I agree. It like for sure has its role, but I guess my point is I was higher on those cards in that combination previous because before I drafted Outsiders, I was like, this is kind of trash, right? And then you're like, oh, I guess I can pitch a blue and do these things. That's pretty good. That's efficient. But now I'm like, well, I'd rather just have like cards that deal damage.
Yeah, or block 3.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, because sometimes, right, like even if I have 2 blues in hand, say one is my block 3 and one I need to pitch, right? So then it's like I don't have any extra blues for Peace of Mind anyway. But yeah, I'm also pretty low on it, but so we just draft. So now I've drafted. I did 1 8-man draft. I just did a 4-man draft twice, and then we did a 6-man draft, which playing those numbers makes it more difficult in these unbalanced sets, right? Like if there's like 2 Rangers, 2 Ninjas, and 4 Assassins in an 8-man pod, playing a 4-man draft doesn't represent the ratios or the cards correctly, but you still get to learn a lot about like how the cards feel and interact and like the heroes play and whatnot. So based on that, brief education, I do feel like I've like learned quite a bit about the value system in the set. You know what I mean?
Totally. Do you think that one hero is stronger than the other heroes?
Yes. I think that Arachne is the strongest hero.
You think so, huh?
Yeah.
Stronger than Azalea?
So because draft is like self-correcting or self-balancing or whatever, right? Like maybe he's not, right? Like maybe if you're the only Azalea, or say you're the only Ranger and you're Azalea and you got good packs, right? I think that'll be the strongest deck of the table for sure.
Yeah. Because
I was just speaking in a vacuum kind of without being like,
totally. Because like you have this, the same chance of getting red arrows in your pack as blue arrows. I mean, in theory, right? Like, I don't know if if there is like a higher, 0.04% for red arrows or blue arrows or yellow arrows or whatever. But you can assume maybe that the distributions of those things are as equally random or whatever. You know what I mean?
They seem pretty even.
Yeah. So you could just like wind up with just more blue arrows in the pod than red arrows. You know what I mean? Because they both come in at common. So that like severely hamstrings any sort of ranger strategy, which is a bit of a bummer. I don't really think there's one hero that's particularly stronger than the others. I just think that there's a high level of skill to the draft is what it is. And if you can kind of there's a level of creativity that I was unaware of that was happening in Outsiders. Like, I think Arcane Rising has a lot of mini modes with many of the cards for many of the heroes, and there's a nice amount of creativity in that draft as well. And Outsiders kind of has the same, because you have like these kind of tricky cards like Virulent Touch and Feisty Locals and Snake, which you like to call it, Spring Load, and that sort of thing. So you have like these cards that are telling you how to kind of play them. And then the creativity is in like how you fit those in the ratios of your drafted deck. You know what I mean? And
yeah, totally.
That has been exciting to kind of unlock a little bit.
Yeah. And again, I'm like brand new to this draft, so it's hard to like speak definitively on it. But I was giving you an answer in a vacuum to your question, right? Which I totally stand by. But for sure, like if you're the only ninja out of 8 and there's great ninja cards, right? Your deck's gonna be broken, and you're by far the best hero. It just seems like ninja cards don't block, and there's a lot of different combo lines, which makes it tough, right? And Riptide's in danger of getting fatigued, and Azalea has to have like pretty specific cards and like a good density of red arrows to capitalize on her hero ability, which are all fine. Like all of those things can happen, and all those heroes can be really powerful. But my default answer was like, Arachne has a weapon, like good weapons, actually.
2 weapons.
Yeah. Well, just a weapon in general. And all the cards block for 3. So you're at this point, right, where you can play, you can pitch, you can Spider's Bite, Red Prowl into something, for 4, Wither or whatever, and then play Razor's Edge on it, right, if you need to. Or if you don't, if you're just presented with something that's like too crippling to play that, you can dial it back and all your cards block for 3, right? So you can block for 6 and still play like Wither Razors or Arsenal Razors or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just so flexible that your cards block so well. And so it reminds me of old him, right? Where you can block efficiently and attack efficiently depending on like what the turn calls for. And with Katsu, it doesn't feel quite that way. And that's just like a very baseline take on why I answered it like that. I do, however, think that the draft will truly have, like 4 assassins. So the power level of Arachne will not be higher than the other heroes, right? Because people recognize this, that assassin is safe, it's powerful, it's good. You can't only have 2 assassins at the table, otherwise everybody will lose, right? So I think that this will be. I don't think assassin will be better than any other hero. It's just fundamentals are pretty sound.
Yeah, totally. Which I totally get that argument. I just think, I suppose that every hero has the chance to be like really powerful in the draft, which I don't think that has been the case in some other sets that we've had previously. And so I don't know what I'm saying. That I just think that's cool. And I think you will get really rewarded at the Pro Tour for just being really diligent about reading the signals and trying your best to like draft your seat. And since the like games are so tight and the power level is a little bit lower, you can kind of outplay a lot of your opponents, even with just like an average deck. You know what I mean? Which is what I've kind of found in the testing draft games and whatnot in the limited zone. So like, there's, I don't know. I think it's hard to get really, really punished, I guess. Is that making sense? I feel like I should have written down what I wanted to say when you were talking is what I should have done.
Or before the pod.
No, I mean, I'm fine.
I think you can get pretty hard punished for like misreading that, like especially Ninja or Azalea is open. If it turns out it's not, then your deck is bad.
Well, right? Yeah, but that's just like drafting bad. Like, what do you
mean by get punished then?
Like in Uprising, sometimes you could just get like pushed into the Dromai seat and your deck could still be bad because you just have like yellows,
Oh, totally. Don't get me started.
At Worlds, I had 2 or 3 Dromai cards for 10 straight packs and started picking them early to send the right signals. And then the guy two doors down to my left was in Dromai,
yeah.
What was I supposed to do?
But I think even if that happens in Uprising, your deck is still not going to be like that bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree 100% with the creativity part. And, while I tried to like look for the good or enjoy Uprising or kind of like make arguments for it and appreciate it, it's like, it ended up to me that was just like a pretty bad draft set and a pretty bad experience. And I'm like very happy that we're back to kind of this, like, I don't think it's quite as good to me as Arya, but it's like that, it's kind of Arya-esque, right? In that you can draft these different classes and different archetypes within each class, and that you can, like you said, get kind of creative in what you put together. Like I said, you can just like Kadachi into Humble is Katsu, right? And that's pretty powerful. And you can have like one combo line you're looking for to set up to blow them out, and the rest of the time, you have block 3s and you can like value them. I will definitely be drafting my seat. I'm not going to try to force anything. I'm just going to like draft what's at the table. And there's always the risk of somebody like discovering the fatigue Oldhim or something and blindsiding everybody with it. Like maybe if you specifically pick the broken Benji deck from pick 1, Maybe that's the best deck in the format, but I don't know. So I'm just going to draft my seat to try to have an above average deck and then make intelligent decisions in the game.
Just basic classic plan. What are your thoughts on the hybrid cards? Do you feel like, I mean, so some of them are a little bit better in certain heroes. Excuse me. But do you think, like, how much of a margin is that? You know what I mean? So, like, for example, like, maybe Death Touch and Virulent Touch are maybe a little bit better in Riptide and maybe Azuri than they are in Arachne and Azalea. Like how much, because I've heard some people, like, and read that they're talking about that like, even though they're hybrid cards, they might as well just be somebody else's class card. Like, how do you feel about those cards?
It's a really good question, Taylor.
Thanks. It's like I prepared for this podcast or something. Even though somebody said I didn't prepare.
Well, anyway. So I agree with you, and I know what you mean. Like, Riptide has this really cool ability to get around, dominate with like loading a trap, and gets extra value and stuff. And like certain card, like, I know this isn't a hybrid card, but cards like Feisty Locals or something are like way better in Riptide than in like, Azalea or whatever. But I found that a lot of the cards like Red Virulent Touch or like Death Touch, but let's just take Virulent Touch, right? Like, I played a couple of those in Arachne, and to me, that card is good enough that it doesn't matter that it's worse in that deck. Like, yeah, maybe it's better in Riptide, but it's like, to me, it's worth taking an extra 2 damage and holding that card to arsenal it, to then later in the next turn block for 3 extra and instead play Virulent Touch out of arsenal as your second attack, because I think the card's powerful enough. So while there is a bit of that workaround, this format's just like slow and about exchanges. And to me, it's like, that card's good, right? It's worth the 2 damage in the arsenal.
What about,
in my opinion, right?
What about something like Plunge? So Assassin Ninja, and it costs 1, go again, hits, daggers get +1.
Dagger +1.
Yeah.
It's only the next dagger gets +1.
Yeah, sure.
I think that card's fairly bad. in both.
Okay, so then maybe a bad example.
I mean, it's okay, right? It's kind of like a leg tap or something, but you mean it's better in Ninja than...
No, I'm just wondering. Like, I mean, I think theory-wise it might be better in Ninja because then your dagger doesn't cost 2. It's like better value. It's a 1 for 2 rather than a 2 for 2.
In Assassin, your cost curve is like kind of rough. So then if you play that card and then play a Spider's Bite, that costs you a whole blue. And then they're just like extra incentivized to block the Spider's Bite. So they get value out of their 2 blocking that, and then you don't get any value out of it hitting. So I think that that's a pretty bad investment. I mean, it's fine, right? It's like kind of 1 for 4 in, Go Again, and Katsu, it's kind of 1 for 4 Go Again. But to me, I've just found cost curve wise, I kind of like just like Head Jab better.
Is it really good in Benji though? Like, the yellow comes in for 2 hits, and then it basically gives your dagger +2. So now your dagger comes in for 3.
Yeah.
So does that then make it like a better Ninja card? But then here's the alternate scenario where it's your 3rd Go Again attack for Arachne, right? So you play that first red one for 3, and then you get to go another red. So you're doing 9 damage off of, 1 resource. You know what I mean?
You mean your second go again attack?
Yeah, sorry.
I
Your
so
third
in
attack.
the Benji example, it's still like 1 for 4 go again, which is good, right? Like the card's fine. It's just like it's not part of a combo and doesn't like make any kind of break point, except I guess now they block the spider's bite if it applies there. I guess I shouldn't have said the card's bad. I just don't think it's special in any way.
Well, that's not the argument I'm presenting. Is just like, is it innately more one class than another for, you know, because it's a hybrid card? That's my point.
Okay, for that specific example, I would choose it's more of a ninja card, because you can Katsu fetch off of it. You just always want starters. Arachne just has starters to begin with, because of his hero ability. And like I said, oftentimes with Arachne, I've found you can like, you know, spider's bite or prowl, spider's bite, whatever, you know, wither, attack, react, or you can just block for 6 and then attack for 6, or like oftentimes it's like you don't need that extra. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this was something that came up in my games yesterday. Was because of my late pivot, I had to pick plunges, and so there were like, I don't think it happened in our game, but in the other 2 games that happened, I wound up with like kind of a really good turn where, just because plunge had go again, it allowed me to present a third threat onto the board. And with the threat of then the stealth cards having perhaps an attack reaction, it was like a lot more effective than I had previously thought. And I didn't even care about whether or not it hit in using a dagger, but just the fact that I had like an extra go again attack to go, attack for 3, attack for 3, attack for 3, was very good. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think go again's very, very good in this set.
Yeah, it just surprised me because previous to some recent games, I would have said, oh yeah, not a great card. Probably run it in Ninja. Don't want to pick it up in Assassin. And that's kind of like, I guess, also part of my point of the creativity of the set, or your creativity as a person could be like a factor.
Yeah, well, like for that example, I think that it also is affected by your personal deck or your deck building, maybe more than the class you're in, right? Because I still stand by the fact that it affects your cost curve, right? Because so if I'm in Arachne and I want to play Spider's Bite, Wither, Snake, right? That's a blue. But if you're playing Plunge, or say you want to play a 1-cost attack react, right? But if you're playing Plunge, then that eats up that resource. So you might have like more of an awkward hand, and you might just have to block with Plunge, and now it blocks for 2. Again, as go again, it's like kind of a weird leg tap. It's good, right? But
totally,
depending on how your cost curve works out, that's something to consider.
And this is the I think the beautiful nuance of, I think, where this set is for me, right? Mm-hmm. Is like, I believe we both have wonderful arguments for this arbitrary discussion, but an important discussion when it comes to draft and like eking out the fucking little minuscule bits of value you can, is like, you can 100% see both sides and both points, right? And that's like what's really good about this set now. Now I'm on board. Before I was not on board. I was like, this is better than Uprising. But it's like, the onion is blooming, as they say, down under.
Yeah, I mean, just so far it's been really, really good. You know, enough to bloom Taylor's down under onion.
Or it's just like a good, 3-tiered cake.
And like we talked about privately earlier, like something this set has brought back that I really am appreciating is the balance of cards in your deck versus life totals. Which in some previous sets you've seen your pitch stack depending on the matchup and all that, but like this set really has this like, this is my best arrow and I need to pitch stack it after that hand. Do I really want to block with it? Because that's the value, right? And I'm playing more arrows, but like, is it like, do I need to preserve these threats or blocks or whatever, or pitch stack them or arsenal something? Or do I need to like preserve my life or, right? Because it really has been like kind of this perfect balance of like, I have these 2 meters that are going down. It's like number of cards in deck, especially considering threats in deck versus my health, because I mean, I've already lost when I'm only have like yellow feisty locals in my deck, like it's like a very real thing to consider. So I've very, very much been appreciating that.
Yeah. It's a good set. I wish that the Pro Tour coverage was doing like, all right, we're going to follow Isaac Jessen on this draft and like see all of your packs and all of your picks and then catch up with you on how your games went and how your draft went. Like, I think that is such good content and would be so interesting specifically for this set as well. And this early, like, would be just so interesting as a spectator. Now, I think the draft portion of Pro Tour is going to be the most wild part. Is we're going to have like shit happen where there's like 4 Rangers, 2 Azaleas, 2 Riptides, and we're going to have like 1 Assassin and everybody else went like Ninja, and it's just going to be freaking wildcats out there.
Yeah, and you're like, how did that happen?
It's just like, it was crazy. People, whatever, Levi, shout out to Levi, was saying he's wondering if you can just do arrowless Riptide. Could be a thing. Maybe I have no tech, I have no nothing, just a crazy idea. And then maybe, somebody who listens to us in Europe is like, they found our secret, but who knows? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough of those cards in the set, but
yeah, who knows? Also, this is something else. I know I may have been low on traps, but traps are better than you think they are. The hybrid traps, way better.
What I was going to say, that's a hybrid card that's really good.
Yeah.
I've found that traps are a scary pick if you're like insecure in your seat because they don't productively win you the game, right? But if you are in your seat drafting a good deck, traps are like such a good pickup.
I think traps are good, period. Like, they're block for 3s that also have a relevant effect. You know what I mean? And that's really good. If you can get the value off of those.
I've just been in a situation where it's like red pump, or do I have enough arrows, or do I have enough 0-cost blues, or you know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, I guess Katsu can't use traps, but for example, right? And then I get lower on traps because it seems like a nice extra, even though I don't think it really is.
Yeah, totally. I think there's some things in this set also that like on paper don't feel like they work. Like the whole, like Spider's Bites are the best example of this, right? That everybody I think can understand is like 2 for 1 is bullshit. But it's what it does is really good, And there's a lot of things I think in uprising that are like that. And so I think the people that can figure out the actual value of something rather than the theoretical value of something are going to just bust ass in the draft. That's my final take.
Mm-hmm.
Which is maybe like lukewarm and regular, but I don't think so also.
Well, I agree with your take. Regardless of temperature.
We agree. Anything else you want to say before we get into this new segment I've cooked up?
No, I'm pretty excited. I don't know what this new segment is going to be.
Hell yeah.
I'm like happy to share all my musings on this because I think that this CC meta and a new draft set are like very fun and very interesting. But I just like, yeah, I don't have any juicier tidbits. Unfortunately, sometimes life happens, but you know, regardless of performance, I'm just like very much looking forward to going and playing in the Pro Tour. I mean, nobody wants to like lose every game both days. Like that's not fun.
You don't make day 2 if you lose every game, Isaac. Or maybe you do. Right. I don't know.
No, not at the Pro Tour. But you know, I'm excited to go and play regardless. I haven't gotten to play much recently, and just going and playing that many high level games will be fun for my brain, you know, regardless of how well I do. So,
and you'll be the little spoon for Zane. So that's also like a huge bonus. Or big spoon.
This is a weird.
Is it getting weirder?
Yeah.
The farther down my beer I've had, the weirder it gets.
Yeah. You've been on this train for a long time.
I really like Zane, and I'm jealous you get to hang out with him. And I wish I was hanging out with him. Okay?
I'll tell him hi.
He listens to the pod. He'll know my true feelings. It's fine.
All right. What's your new segment?
New segment. When I was thinking of this, I had a better name and I forgot it because I didn't write it down. So welcome to Pick Order Wars with a Z.
Nice.
So basically
was it Battle Snakes?
That's a different game me and you play privately. So the premise,
I thought we were snaking cards, but yeah, all right, fair enough. Spilled the beans.
The premise here is I have 6 different questions, and this is rapid fire. I'm going to give you 2 cards, and you're going to tell me which one you would pick over the other one, and then I will either agree or rebuttal, and then we'll go through all 6 of them, and then we'll be at the end, and it'll be done.
Okay, you're going to give me the option of pack one, pick one between 2 cards.
Correct.
And I'm going to give you my, what do you call it? It's not like a Rorschach test. It's like an impulse test or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to maybe say something like, toxic tips or mask of many faces. And then you just got to say like mask of many faces. And then I'll say toxic tips. And then that's it. You can't hum and haw and give me your reasoning, etc. Because then we'll be here for 5 hours.
No way. I'm always very concise and don't speak slowly and say a lot.
It wasn't a dig on you. It was more the nature of podcasting.
No, I was digging at myself.
Oh, okay. Cool. Just to be clear for everybody at home.
Thanks.
Are you ready now? Pick Order Wars, round 1.
I'm ready to battle.
Red Death Touch versus Red Fletch.
Red Death Touch.
Okay, awesome. I also will pick Red Death Touch. Fletch Red versus Red Razor's Edge.
Fletch Red.
Interesting. I'm going with Razor's Edge on that one. Number 3.
Ooh, Fletch is a rare though. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Threadbare Tunic versus Red Virulent Touch.
Threadbare Tunic.
I think we are in agreement on that one as well. Number 4, Humble Red versus Any Color Hurl.
Humble Red.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go with a Hurl.
You make me hurl.
Mean.
I know. Good one. No, just with that pick, not like in general.
Oh, okay. Slightly less mean. Any Color Hurl versus a Spike.
A Spike.
Oh, interesting. I think I might have to agree with you on that one as well. Last one. Head Jab versus Be Like Water.
Be Like Water.
Wow. Interesting. I think
I
I'm
love
going...
this game. This is a great segment. Sorry, what's your
I'm
pick?
going with Head Jab.
Ooh, nice. Why? For the small cost of a whole resource more than Head Jab, Be Like Water can be Head Jab.
Totally. But you can like naturally combo Head Jab with just 2 cards is kind of why.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty good.
I would rather
good.
Yeah. I would rather just have it naturally rather than have to be a fakie.
Well,
But
I like being a fakie, so I'd rather be a fakie.
I know you like the options. That's a good one though. Number 6 I was most proud of. And that's
Nice.
it. That's Pick Order Wars. Let us know in the Discord, Twitter, comments on the YouTube, email, carrier pigeon, etc., what your picks would have been and how you feel about our picks. That's it. Pick Order Wars.
Love it. Great segment.
Thanks. I also didn't know. Let me know if we should bump that up to 10 rather than 6. Anyway.
I mean, I'm having a blast. I could do probably 100. So.
Maybe next time we'll just do a whole episode on that.
I mean, I'm sold. I love it.
Sweet.
I bet people would listen to that. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
You play as you listen along. I would probably listen to an hour of that on my drive tomorrow. And just play. It's maybe not. There's only so many cards in the set. Maybe not 100, but you know.
Well, awesome. I think that's all I've got for this episode, unless you have anything, Isaac.
Nope. Sounds great.
Sweet. Well, good luck at Baltimore. Obviously, I'm rooting for you, and I know this is your wheelhouse. It's been proven. Just very little preparation. Going to a high-level event, you're going to do just fine.
I'm just an idiot. But I'm having fun playing a game I love.
And that's why the people like you better than me. It's because of your rustic hero.
That's not
vibes.
true at all, but I'll take it.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for listening. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Please reach out to us and tell us how much you like the show, either in sharing it to your friends and tagging us, or leaving comments or reviews, etc. All of that stuff means a lot to us and helps us reach a broader audience, and that helps everybody involved. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, Isaac.
Good night.
You as well. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBro Taylor and at BattleBro Isaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.